Hey everyone, welcome back. How's it going today? Come on in, grab a virtual seat. We're going to talk about wrangling our writing distractions today. Oh, and in full transparency, this is something that I think we master as we go through writing careers. Maybe one day I'll be able to look back and go, I don't get distracted anymore, but I am still going through this process of stopping every once in a while and reining myself back in. And I know the other coaches as well have talked a little bit about our squirrels and things and staying on target. So we are not approaching this as people who are perfect. We are not perfect, but we have pushed through in order to make this a career, in order to do something we love. And at the end of the day, the tools and tips I will be sharing are hopefully going to help you pull your distractions back in, corral them a bit, and get you back on track for what you are planning or writing or editing or planning to publish. So I'm going to go ahead and open up today's session just by asking for anybody willing to share in the chat. What book-related distractions take the majority of the time you're not writing? Now, I'm not talking about, doom scrolling or not writing in general. I'm talking about book-related ones. What are you spending your time doing when you're not writing, but it's still bookish? Researching, planning, trying other ideas. Exactly. We all have different book-related distractions that take up our time. And the truth is that writing itself, though, isn't always the main distraction keeping us from writing. At the end of the day, there's only two true writing distractions that I was able to come up with for the call, and the rest fall into just part of writing. True writing related distractions. Again, we'll talk about doom scrolling and stuff that isn't writing related later. True writing distractions that are writing related but aren't going to help you get your book done. Research for other books. This is not going to cross into planning down here that I have under just part of writing for the current book. Researching other things, those rabbit trails that carry you off. What if I did eventually write a story set in this specific time, in this specific place? And then going into the depths of the annals, like Gandalf going into Gondor and dusting off all the books, right? And spending all this time that we could be spending on our current project researching for something else that may or may not be written. Side stories that, again, are not tied to the current project at all. Our muse comes up with ideas and it's like, hey, write me. And it's so tempting. It's the story in the meme that we see where the guy is looking back over his shoulder at the girl, right? And that new story idea is that girl walking by, and the girlfriend next to him is the current book. Yes. Who else is guilty of this? It can't just be me. Ah, now, with that being said, there are a couple things that people claim to be distractions that really aren't. They're necessities. And by putting these things off, you could actually be delaying your writing process. If you are a planner or a plantser, I'm excusing pantsers from the top one here. If you are a planner or a plantser, someone who plans a little or the entire thing before you write, putting off planning is going to delay your book because with planners, you're most likely not going to start writing until your planning is done or a big chunk of it is done. And planners want to know the next step forward. So you need to embrace that planning is just part of your writing. I would take planning, honestly, and embrace it as writing and not separate it out. I'm distracted. I'm not actually writing. You're planning the outline that will become the book. Embrace it, work it into that time, get it done, and then you can start drafting. Plot bunnies for the current book, again, are just part of writing. It is not the same as a side story when you have a plot bunny for the current book pop in and go, but what if we gave them a love interest? But what if we added this mystery? But what if we added this big scary monster and add a touch of horror? Those are all elements of your current book's progression. And if you do not explore those, you could be missing out. They're not distractions. They're part of figuring out your story. They're part of the writing process. So if you have been putting off writing because you are planning, because you are chasing plot bunnies for the current book and exploring what that would do for the current story, give yourselves permission to let the baggage go and breathe because you are doing good. You are fine. Now, if you find that you are stuck with plot bunnies and you never progress into actually drafting, then it might be time to talk about boundaries. But how you can tell the difference between whether your writing is a distraction or whether the writing you're doing is part of the project you're trying to achieve is to ask yourself which of these two categories it falls into. True writing distractions aren't truly needed for your current story. Researching for another book, doing a completely unrelated side project that will never be part of this book, those kinds of distractions are not needed for the current book to get done. And therefore, they are a distraction, and you should reprioritize where you do them. Things that are just part of writing are necessary. If you're a planner or plantser, you need the structure in order to write. If your story wants to grow in its own organic way, it needs to be allowed to pursue what that organic path would take it down. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to rewrite the book 2 or 3 different ways, but take some time to think out that process. Where's that going to take you? Do you like where that's taking you? And that is just part of writing. So is it necessary for your story to work? If the answer is yes, it's not a distraction. If the answer is no, then it is a distraction. Um, Remember, friends, that wrangling your muses instead of wrangling your distractions do tend to backfire if we are not careful. If you're always telling yourself things like, new stories are bad, new ideas are bad, I don't want to be distracted right now, I need to plan something else, or I don't need to plan anything else, it's a waste of my time, I'm only allowed to think about one project at any given time. You might think that what you're doing is protecting your current project and putting it in a little bubble, and that that's going to push it to get done. But what you're actually doing is taking your creativity itself and putting it in a bubble and blowing it away from yourself. You have to have creativity to write. At the end of the day, even if writing is a business, there is an artistic, creative side to this business. And without it, you will have no product, or your product will be lackluster. So you don't want to throttle your muse for the future projects, for the current projects when you hit a slump, by teaching it subconsciously, by teaching yourself subconsciously that new ideas are bad. Because then when you need one, it won't come because you've taught yourself to push them away. When you need to plan something new, you've taught yourself not to do that anymore, and you're going to find yourself unable to move on from your current book. So we don't want to wrangle muses and shove them into the bubble and blow them off. We want to keep them happy and yet also get stuff done. We need boundaries instead of bubbles. Something can be a natural, necessary part of writing and still need boundaries. If we plot bunny along indefinitely, the current book will never get done. We need to establish boundaries so that we can pursue smarter goals and set ourselves up for the success that we want. And this is where what I affectionately call my carrots come in handy. So a carrot is a reward that you give to yourself if you meet the current project's goal for the day. And what this does is reinforce positive behavior and positive outcomes with rewards. It's good to be creative. Hooray! The more creative I am and the more on track I stay with my goal for the day, the more time I have to write whatever the side project is, or to follow the plot bunny, or to get down into researching another book. I try not to throttle my creativity by telling it this is bad, sticking it in the bubble and blowing it off. Instead, I am teaching it patience. I'm teaching myself patience. If we're being blatantly honest, I am learning to embrace patience and perseverance. And that way, When it comes time to start planning another story again, when it comes time to break through a slump or a writer's block, it's easier to do because you haven't been shoving your inspiration away the whole time and leaving yourself with nothing, just a blank screen in your head, right? So what carrots would help you? I'm going to give everybody a second to put some in the chat. I put a couple kinds of goals that I use here, but they are just examples. What kind of carrot could you use to sort of lure in your plot bunnies and keep them happy while you get your productivity done for the day? The examples on the screen are if I write X thousand of words today, I can write as much as I want in my squirrel project, the one that's unrelated. If I get through 3 chapters of my edit, and you're a planner, maybe you can outline the next book the rest of the day instead of worrying about the current project. These carrots can be anything, but ultimately it's about positive reinforcement. We are trying to avoid negative reinforcement that isolates us off from our muse. Thank you everyone for sharing. Okay, we're going to pivot a little bit here. We talked about the writing ones. Let's talk about the non-writing ones. Has your non-writing cart been put in front of your writing horse? This, for my international folks, is basically saying that you are looking ahead of where you are now at things that are not related to what you are doing. The horse, in this case, writing this draft, pulls your publishing career behind it. It pulls your marketing career behind it. If you accidentally get those things out of order, you're going to have a horse maybe trying to push a cart. It's not going to be as effective if it goes anywhere at all. Non-writing distractions are the most notorious distractions for sabotaging writers. Yes, we immediately jump to, plot bunnies or squirrels or research. But if we're being honest with ourselves, how many of us would say that the majority of our wasted time goes to things like cell phones, goes to things like, extra work? Some of these distractions are not avoidable, and yet distractions they are. You've heard me say the term procrastinating if you have been around for a little while. I should be editing, but I thought it'd be more fun to do this instead. Publishing related and marketing related goals. Are you sharing your writing time, the time you said you would give to putting this book out, with other things? Some of those other things, this is by no means an exhaustive list, is doom scrolling. I got no inspiration, and so I pick up my phone, I head to social media platform of choice, I start scrolling through, and before I know it, it's 2 hours later, I'm exhausted, I'm going to bed. Destructive research. Destructive research is not the same as research for another book. Destructive research is basically setting yourself up for comparison and pity partying. It's where you spend your time looking through what everybody else is doing right so that you can heap on yourself all the things you're doing wrong. And we put a guise on it as in the form of, well, I'm learning what they're doing right. There is an actual marketing learning tool you can use called modeling. It's not a software or anything. This is something you do where you go research successful authors and you go, okay, here's what they're posting about. Their fans must like travel and pets and food. So when I'm creating my content plan, I need to make sure I sprinkle in some posts about pets or travel or food, right? That is not the same as destructive research. Modeling is not the same as self-comparison and breaking yourself down, especially for my friends who have the imposter syndrome demon on your shoulder like I do. When you spend your time looking up other authors under the guise of modeling, but in actuality, every time you see their success, it makes you feel worse about yourself or about your project, or you spend your time flipping through their books going, my book could never be this way. You are participating in destructive research. You are not actually building up things to help yourself succeed. You're making a tally of all the things you're not and that you're not doing. Please stop. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help your book. and you are looking at their highlight reel, not their entire journey. They had rough spots too. Blinking cursors are another true distraction here, where you sit down and you go, I'm going to sit in front of this computer for 30 minutes and I'm not doing anything until it's done. And then you sit there, and I have heard of writers that sit and watch the blinking cursor on their screen for 30 straight minutes, and then they get up, they close the computer, they walk away. And this feeds into that destructive goals that I talked about 2 weeks ago and the failures last week. If you didn't watch those pep talks, they are on the YouTube channel here, and I recommend you go see them. If you find yourself in this blinking cursor group, the blinking cursor group people are trying to force through a process that doesn't work for them, but they're trying to be consistent. And over time, this will end up most likely sabotaging your writing overall, because what it does is not fuel your muse, which is low on, inspiration. It doesn't fuel your self-worth, your self-esteem, your confidence that you're going to be able to do this. What the blinking cursor thing, when you sit there and you just stare at that page for 30 minutes, does is reinforce these negative thoughts you have about yourself, about your book, and it shows this giant red flag waving, essentially, that your muse desperately needs help. So instead, you should try maybe pivoting to some self-care productive distractions when that blinking cursor happens. Not all distractions are bad. Distractions that help your self-care, your ability to sleep at night, your ability to get some exercise, take your time and drink a cuppa and read a book, that is important for your process. Without our brains functioning well, our writing will not reflect the stories the way we want them to. Refueling your inspiration is a productive distraction. It is something that, yes, will take away time from writing words on the page, but refill the creative well that you are drawing that inspiration from. Excuse me. So, for example, when you make a writer's toolkit, if you're participating in Novel 90 with me on Team Pantser, I had you make mood boards, playlists, gather up some character art, make lists of books and movies that inspired you to write or make you think of your book. The reason I did that is so that when you hit days where the blinking cursor is sitting there, you don't power through an impossible 30-minute session staring at a cursor. Instead, you can go and get re-inspired to come back and write something, anything. It doesn't even have to be the scene you left off. Any words from within your world to loosen up your story and get it flowing again. Time with loved ones, friends, family, peers here in the community or in other author communities can help you feel connected and reshape that isolation. The true difference here is that distractions leave you feeling drained, guilty, restless, and or discouraged. They do not leave you feeling like you're in a position where you can come tackle this project tomorrow and be any better off. Self-care and productive distractions are distractions that build you up. They bolster your creativity, they bolster your inspiration, and they leave you feeling connected with loved ones and with your muse. Now, your self-care distractions can run off with you if you are not careful. So you have to keep them, restricted. I would give them however much writing time you were going to write for 1, maybe 2 days, and then try again. See if you can't get some words out. Maybe find a random writing sprint. There are several writing sprints that AutoCrit has on YouTube. There are 3 and 6 hour ones. Look at the pictures that we show on those writing sprints and just write something, because if you can get words flowing, it can help unlock your wall. And then get back to the routine. Keep yourself focused. We're being flexible with what is not working and readjusting and moving on. As a reminder to myself as well as everybody on, we can be our own best ally. We like to remind ourselves we can be our own worst enemy, but we can also be our own best ally. Sometimes we forget we are our own boss when it comes to writing. We get to make the calls. We get to do all of the adjustments. We get to decide how to make our team members, i.e., ourselves, more productive. We're our own boss. So don't run away from a failure. Don't shrink from weaponized goals that weren't working for you in the past. Those are in those pep talks that I've been talking about. Instead, notice them for what they are: red flags and tools that you are having trouble making that progress in your current piece and that you need to adjust. You need to pivot. You need to change your course before your course leads you straight into a wall. Normally, increased distractions are a direct result of either running from failures or shrinking from those weaponized goals. If you find yourself scrolling through the phone a whole lot more the last week or so than you did at the beginning of, let's say, the Novel 90 Challenge on June 1st, chances are high that you feel in some capacity like you are failing or behind in some way, or you are dreading a weaponized goal, outcome, ultimatum that you set up for yourself down the road. And if that is the case, please shed those harmful goals, shed the weaponized goals, reframe your failures, make smart, positive goals that can bolster your productivity. The last point I have here on distractions today is about publishing. And the hard truth about publishing when it comes to distractions is that marketing can and should, in many cases, be done while you are still writing. However, it should not monopolize your time. And it is very tempting to think in our head that the marketing and publishing is writing. They are not the same thing. If you have your self-publishing career in front of you, you have different hats. You have a writing hat, an editing hat, a marketing hat, a publishing hat. You need to start thinking of these things separately because they are extremely important for time management. If you try to squeeze all this stuff into writing time, you will quit producing new work at some point. You will get so caught up in marketing existing published work that your new pieces will pay the price. You need time to actually write separately. And you need time to do marketing, and you need time to do publishing, and you need time to do the other things. But you don't have to take all these hats and wear them in a big tower on your head all at one time. You have time to slowly learn about your different hats and trade them out a little bit at a time and start adding more to your collection. You can start slowly and build up. If your marketing and publishing time is taking up your writing and editing time, you may be using actual distractions instead of something that's going to be productive. So, an example, just red flags here. Buying covers before your book is done. There are some people in our community, I might be one of them, who have bought covers and then written a story because the cover looked really cool. That happens with pre-mades. There are also those of us, myself included, who create working covers of the book before the book is done. There are also professional authors who have now established their routine so much that they buy their book covers maybe for a whole series in advance and then write and release. But if this is your very first book ever, you don't know if you want to query it yet, you don't know if you want to self-publish it yet, you don't know what you want to do with it yet, pause before you go commission character art, book covers, formatting, stickers, all of that stuff. Because let me just lay it out as plain as I can, one writer to another. If you don't even know if you're going to traditionally publish, meaning query to a publisher, or self-publish yet, you could be wasting hundreds or thousands of dollars collecting all of this stuff only to have a publisher look at you and go, we use our own cover team. We don't want the risk of trying to license your work from who knows where in an era where generative AI is generating covers and has all kinds of copyright stuff to think about. They want to deal with it themselves. And then what have you done? You spent all this time where you could have been writing the book, researching, hiring, and coordinating covers, you have spent all this time and working to pay for this cover, and they aren't going to recoup you the money that you spent on a cover they won't use. So, and you could end up writing a book and decide that by the time it's finished and edited, that cover no longer meets the market trend for the book. And now you need to find a different kind of cover entirely. Covers are fun. Covers are great. But if you are going to get one, try a working cover that is not as expensive. There are lots of good options of places that can get you a affordable cover for that purpose. But until you get your process under you, this could be a really big money and time sinkhole. Number 2, my trad people who want to go query an agent and then get their book signed by a publisher. Looking for and vetting agents when you don't have a first draft is a bad idea most of the time. The reason this is a bad idea most of the time is because what the agents want and what they will want when you are done are two different things. What they want now, what they'll want in the future are not necessarily going to line up. Those agents may not even be accepting queries by the time you're finished with your draft. And the worst of all is when you find an agent who's a perfect fit, you don't have a first draft and you're tempted to query without a first draft. Because then chances are high that you're either going to try to force out a piece that just doesn't flow the way you wanted because you rushed it out, or you are going to query it and they're going to say, yeah, send me the manuscript, and you're going to have to tell them you don't have it. And then you have burned a bridge with an agent that did not have to be burned because you are editing or you are querying too early. So as tempting as it is, it's okay to have a dream list of agents, like jot them down in Excel somewhere, but do not spend hours and hours and hours of time vetting agents and looking through wish lists before you have your draft done. You have to have something to query them. And the last one here is for my business facing folks, the people who look at your books as business products. You are wanting to work full time. You're trying to essentially write to market. You can absolutely find yourself wasting time researching keywords, categories, trending tropes while you are drafting, when you could have written the book and then looked for this detail to match your book on the back end. Now, there is productivity side to these things, right? Marketability checks before you write a book is a smart idea. Is this book even trending right now? Does that matter to you? But don't get lost in the weeds on the rabbit hole of researching metadata for days and days and days and then go write the book. By the time the book is done, you'll need a whole new keyword search, most likely. You'll need to find a whole new way to position this book so that it's strong in the current market when it is going out. Productive side, though, if you would like to add, not replace your writing and editing time, but if you would like to add marketing and publishing time to your schedule in addition to writing, here are some things you could do. Dual purpose inspiration fuel on socials, which means, you know, that toolkit we made with the character art and the mood boards and all of that stuff. Stick it up on your socials at the same time. Now, make sure that you have rights to reshare the character art. There's a lot of rights out there, commercial and royalty free and all of that stuff. But, you know, check that for first, of course, but sharing with a newsletter that you have a playlist and letting them go listen. Deciding whether to indie or trad publish while you are doing the first draft is productive. Instead of looking for and vetting agents whose opinions may change, you have a little more leeway with deciding whether this book would be better served to a niche indie audience or massive wide trad audience. And start building your platform as early as you can. A publisher can't build a platform for you. They can help you, you know, even with a lightning strike chance, help you put books on shelves and do marketing. But even then, most publishers don't normally do all the marketing today for authors. So you need a platform. You will be responsible for your own website most of the time, your own newsletter, your own social media pages, even if you get trad published. So don't wait to be trad published. Go ahead and start slowly building an audience now. If you've been listening to that stuff and you're like, Catherine, I'm just so excited to put this book out. This book is so good. I can't wait for people to read it. I have one key thing that I keep. This right here is stuck in my computer notes so that every time I am tempted to go publish or market a book in a series that isn't done, that isn't ready, I have to look at it. Breaking reader promises by delaying or failing to deliver has career-lasting implications. When you build a platform, you are making promises to readers about your book, about yourself, about the fact that this book is going to be coming out relatively soon. You are making them promises. When you have to put off your first estimated release, you will probably lose some readers. You may not lose a lot, and many may understand if it's a life circumstance thing, but you may lose some readers. If you fail to deliver, like canceling a pre-order, you are going to lose some readers. You're losing trust as a result of this. There is career-lasting implications for breaking promises. So be careful what you promise. You can put book information up. Tell me about your characters and your world and your plot a little bit here and there without giving me an estimated release date, without giving me a promise of when I can read this book until you actually have the draft done and you know when it's going to come out. Keep that in the forefront of your mind. We want to market the story first so that when we do have a pre-order or a publication date, our readers are ready to go buy it. So before you get your publishing cart in front of your writing horse, just remember that you are making promises and you need to keep those promises realistic and achievable, both for yourself and for your readers. In the end, balance is the goal. Balance between writing time and non-writing time, where your productive distractions bolster you back up, where you start building a platform, where you have other things that are part of your life that bolster the writing side of your life. You need more than one set of times to do this. In the end, we're on a journey that's focused on progress, not perfection. If you find that you have been floundering with this, right? Kindness is key. I have shared this the last 2 weeks. I'm going to share it again today because it is this important that you get it. Show yourself the same kindness you would show another author if they were the one telling you that they were wrangling with their distractions and they were having trouble. Just because you found yourself doom scrolling lately, putting your publishing cart before your horse, chasing plot bunnies, does not mean that you are a failure or that your book has failed. We need self-honesty and transparency in order to adjust and move forward. So if you're new around here, I coach Team Pantser in AutoCrit's Novel 90 Writing Challenge alongside Becca, who coaches Plantsers, and Kat, who coaches Planners. And if you would like a community that will commiserate with you and encourage you and hold you accountable and be there for you to give you tips or just hear you out when you say, I am wrangling these distractions, come join us. It is 100% free. You go to www.novel90.com and sign up for free, participate for free, and have a community alongside you for free as you wrangle all those distractions and get this book done. I believe in you. I hope that you start believing in yourself and your book if you don't already, and keep the course. Just adjust the course if needed. Take care, everyone. Bye.